Unit 2-4. Making Inferences and Predictions. Focus. Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Professor Elliott, did you read the draft of my paper yet?
Well, hello, Amy. Yes, I did read it. As a matter of fact, I wanted to talk to you about it. I'm glad you stopped by. I think I have your paper. Here we go. I have it right here.
Is there something wrong with it?
No, not terribly, but I can't tell where you're going with it.
Oh, I'm not sure I understand.
Let me put it like this. You start out strong. In fact, your introduction's done quite well. You really get your teacher interested in technology and society and how they're related and all. The middle part, too, where you interview the engineer, that's very engaging. Lots of good and original ideas, but after that, well, I'm lost. What does it all mean? It just gets a little vague.
Oh, I think I see what you mean. Do you mean my conclusion's not clear?
Well, it's a little too open. You need to tie it all together. Leave your reader with one clear thought, one new way of thinking about technology.
Oh, well, I see. Maybe I'd better work on that part some more. I really appreciate your comments. This helps me a lot. Thanks, Professor Elliott.
My pleasure, anytime.
Now choose the best answer to each question. Number 1. What does the professor imply about the student's paper? Number 2. What will the student probably do? Unit 2-4. Making Inferences and Predictions. Focus. Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Professor Elliott, did you read the draft of my paper yet?
Well, hello, Amy. Yes, I did read it. As a matter of fact, I wanted to talk to you about it. I'm glad you stopped by. I think I have your paper. Here we go. I have it right here.
Is there something wrong with it?
No, not terribly, but I can't tell where you're going with it.
Oh, I'm not sure I understand.
Let me put it like this. You start out strong. In fact, your introduction's done quite well. You really get your teacher interested in technology and society and how they're related and all. The middle part, too, where you interview the engineer, that's very engaging. Lots of good and original ideas, but after that, well, I'm lost. What does it all mean? It just gets a little vague.
Oh, I think I see what you mean. Do you mean my conclusion's not clear?
Well, it's a little too open. You need to tie it all together. Leave your reader with one clear thought, one new way of thinking about technology.
Oh, well, I see. Maybe I'd better work on that part some more. I really appreciate your comments. This helps me a lot. Thanks, Professor Elliott.
My pleasure, anytime.
Now choose the best answer to each question. Number 1. What does the professor imply about the student's paper? Number 2. What will the student probably do? Exercise 2-4A. Questions 1 through 2. Listen to a conversation between a student and his advisor.
Excuse me, Mrs. Lyons. Do you have a minute?
Yes. How are you, Bruce?
Fine, I guess. But I'm having a hard time keeping up in geometry. I think I'd better get out of the class and try again next quarter.
Let's have a look at the preliminary list for next quarter. I'm afraid geometry won't be offered again in the spring.
Oh, no.
If you feel your workload is too heavy now, why not drop your history class? You could easily get that course again. It's offered every quarter.
Oh, all right. If I drop history, maybe then I'll be able to catch up in geometry. Thanks, Mrs. Lyons.
You're welcome, Bruce. Good luck.
Number 1. Why does the student go to see his advisor? Number 2. What will the student probably do? Questions 3 through 4. Listen to a conversation between two students.
I ran into a problem when I tried to register by telephone. I got a message that said I had an outstanding charge on my account that needed to be paid before I could complete my registration.
What does that mean?
I'm not sure. A recorded voice just said I had to go to the student accounts office.
Do you have any idea what it could be about?
The only thing I can think of is last quarter my roommate broke the shower door in our suite, and maybe they billed me by mistake.
Oh, I'll bet that's expensive. You better go to the accounting office and try to clear it up.
Yeah, and I'd better make sure my roommate pays for the damage. I do need to register for next quarter.
Number 3. What is the man's problem? Number 4. What will the man probably do? Questions 5 through 7. Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Professor Pollard?
Yes?
I registered for your psychology course for summer session, but I have to go to Vancouver and won't be back until June 25th.
Oh, that means you'll miss the first week.
I know. Could I make up the work when I get back?
That would be kind of a problem. It's like this. We'll cover the important basics during the first week, and you'll be forming study groups and starting to plan your research projects. The first group report is due on the 25th.
Would I still be able to join a group?
I don't think that would be fair to the others in your group. Summer session is only 6 weeks, and you can't afford to get a late start.
That's okay. I understand. Will you teach this course again in the fall?
Yes, in fact, in fall semester there'll be 2, maybe 3 sections.
Number 5. Why does the student go to see her professor? Number 6. What does the professor imply? Number 7. What will the student probably do? Questions 8 through 10. Listen to a conversation between two students.
I haven't seen you around lately. Where have you been hiding yourself?
I live off campus now, in Forest Glen.
Oh, those are the apartments in Glenwood that the university owns, right?
Right. And would you believe they don't cost much more than the dormitories?
I didn't realize that. But how did you manage to get in Forest Glen? I thought it was just for married students.
3 of the buildings are for married people only, but anyone can live in the rest. And the best part of it is I can ride the city bus for free. All I had to do was show my rent receipt to the transit company, and they gave me a bus pass that's good for the whole semester.
Maybe I'll look into that. I might save some money on parking.
Why not? The apartments are nice and spacious, and you wouldn't even need your car.
Number 8. What are the students mainly discussing? Number 9. What can be inferred about the woman? Number 10. What will the man probably do? Exercise 2-4-B. Questions 1 through 2. Listen to an art instructor talk about composition.
Composition is the organization of shapes and forms into a whole, an expressive whole. The elements of composition, line, shape, tone, and color, need to be well arranged, need to be ordered, they need to be coherent, just like the words and phrases and sentences in a piece of writing. All paintings have a compositional element. Successful paintings sort of suggest the third dimension, the sense that the design goes beyond the picture frame. A picture's unity, which includes the shapes, tones, and colors, is linked to what the artist has to say. The artist's message is strongest when it's clear. A composition is better if it says one thing strongly than if it tries to say too many things. A crowded composition is sort of fussy and splintered and lacks unity. Even a painting of a single object needs thoughtful composition, so the character of the object is present in every shape.
Number 1. What does the instructor imply about composition? Number 2. Would the instructor most likely agree or disagree with each statement below? Questions 3 through 6. Listen to part of a talk in a biology class.
Biology is considered one of the natural sciences. It is the science of life and life's processes. And like life, science is better understood by observing it than by trying to create a precise definition. Over the next 15 weeks, we will be observing the science of biology. In many ways, biology is the most demanding of all sciences. This is partly because living systems are so complex. Biology is also a multidisciplinary science. It requires knowledge of chemistry, physics, and mathematics. And of all the sciences, biology is the most linked to the social sciences and humanities. The word science comes from a Latin verb meaning to know. Science is a way of knowing. It emerges from our curiosity about ourselves and our world. Striving to understand is one of our basic drives. Who are scientists? Scientists are people who ask questions about nature and who believe that these questions can be answered. Scientists are explorers who are passionate about discovery. This course has something for all of you to discover. If you're a biology major or a pre-medical student, you'll discover ways to become a better scientist. If you're a physical science or engineering major, you'll discover in biology many applications for what you've learned in your other science courses. And if you're a non-science major, you've chosen a course in which you can sample many disciplines of discovery.
Number 3. What is the main purpose of the talk? Number 4. According to the professor, why is biology the most demanding of all sciences? Number 5. What does the professor imply about scientists? Number 6. What is probably true about the students in this course? Questions 7 through 10. Listen to a lecture in a botany class. The professor is talking about plant hormones.
The word hormone is derived from a Greek verb that means to excite. Hormones are found in all multicellular organisms and function to coordinate the parts of the organism. A hormone is a chemical signal. It's produced by one part of the body and is then transported to other parts of the body, where it triggers responses in cells and tissues. The concept of chemical messengers in plants first emerged from a series of classic experiments on how plant stems respond to light. Think about this. A houseplant on a windowsill grows toward light. If you rotate the plant, it will soon reorient its growth until its leaves again face the window. The growth of a plant toward light is called phototropism. In a forest or other natural ecosystem where plants may be crowded, phototropism directs growing seedlings toward the sunlight that powers photosynthesis. Some of the earliest experiments on phototropism were conducted in the late 19th century by Charles Darwin and his son, Francis. The Darwins observed that a grass seedling could bend toward light only if the tip of the shoot was present. If the tip was removed, the shoot would not curve toward light. The seedling would also fail to grow toward light if the tip was covered with an opaque cap. The Darwins proposed the hypothesis that some signal was transmitted downward from the tip into the part of the stem that controlled growth. Later experiments by other scientists studying phototropism led to the discovery of chemical messengers that stimulated growth in the stem. These chemical messengers were hormones.
Number 7. What do plant hormones do? Number 8. Which picture illustrates phototropism? Number 9. Which grass seedlings would probably not bend toward light? Number 10. What can be inferred about the tip of a plant's stem? Exercise 2.4c. Questions 1 through 2. Listen to a conversation between two students.
Have you finished your paper for anthropology yet?
No, I haven't even started. I'm having trouble coming up with a good idea. We're supposed to describe the cultural characteristics of a group, but any group I can think of would seem too artificial. I don't know much about any one cultural group.
Of course you do. Write about your own culture.
But that's my problem. I don't really have a culture.
That's ridiculous. Everyone has a culture. What about the culture of your family, or your high school, or your hometown?
I grew up in a small town where almost everyone works in the orchards.
Bingo. Write about the culture of the orchard community.
I never thought of that. Well, why not? It's something I know a lot about.
Number 1. What is the man's problem? Number 2. What will the man probably do? Questions 3 through 4. Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Professor Martin, I will have to miss class tomorrow. My great-aunt passed away and her funeral is tomorrow.
Oh, let me offer my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you. My aunt was a wonderful lady. So would it be possible for me to take the test next week?
Of course. Eric handles all makeups. He's the instructional aide for our department. Can you stop by the office today and make an appointment with him?
Sure. Would he be there now?
He should be. He works every day.
Then I'll do it right now. Thank you, Professor Martin.
You're welcome, Jerry. Take care.
Number 3. Why does the professor say this?
Oh, let me offer my condolences to you and your family.
Number 4. What will the student probably do next? Questions 5 through 7. Listen to a conversation between two students.
I can't believe how much my books cost this semester. I just spent over $100 in the university bookstore for only 4 books, and I still need the book for chemistry. That one costs $55. It's a little more than my budget can handle at the moment.
Science books are always out of sight. But did you know there's another bookstore in the Pioneer District? They carry used copies of most of the textbooks for the university.
I wonder if they'd have my chemistry book. I need the 3rd edition.
I found all of my books there. You can sell any kind of book too, not just textbooks.
That's not a bad idea. Where did you say that was again?
Number 5. What is the man's problem? Number 6. What can be inferred about the man? Number 7. What will the man probably do? Questions 8 through 10. Listen to a conversation in a campus pharmacy.
Hello, I'm here for an allergy medication. The nurse sent me, I think her name was Margaret, in the student clinic. She said I didn't need a prescription and that you would know the right medication. It's for allergies, for my itchy nose and burning eyes. I've been having sneezing fits and it's driving me crazy.
All right. I think she means the new product, the really strong one.
Maybe that's the one. She says it really works for allergies.
All right. You have your choice, actually, of capsules or tablets. There's no difference in price.
It doesn't matter. Capsules, I guess.
All right. Now, this is a powerful drug, so you need only no more than 2 capsules every 6 hours, and you shouldn't drink alcohol, drive a car, or operate machinery.
Uh-oh. I have a big test tomorrow. I don't know. If this is going to make me drowsy, do you have anything else that's effective but won't knock me out?
Well, nothing that'll relieve your symptoms like this drug. Why don't you could take 2 capsules 3 or 4 hours before your test, and that way the drug's still working, but the drowsiness is mostly worn off when you take your test.
Okay, well, I guess I have no choice. I can't start sneezing during the test.
Number 8. What does the man imply about the medication? Number 9. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
Uh-oh, I have a big test tomorrow. I don't know. If this is going to make me drowsy, do you have anything else that's effective but won't knock me out?
Select the sentence that best expresses how the woman probably feels. Number 10. What will the woman probably do? Exercise 2-4-D. Questions 1 through 2. Listen to a conversation in a university office.
Hello, may I help you?
Yes, I hope so. My name is Harry Burke. I got a message from someone in this office saying I still needed to pay a lab fee.
Let me check. Harry Burke. Oh, yes. The computer shows that you haven't paid the lab fee for your biology class. You'll need to do this before you can attend your lab section.
I didn't know there was a lab fee. I don't remember seeing it on my bill.
Did you register after September 15th?
I think so.
The fee probably didn't show up on your bill because you registered late. I'm afraid you'll have to pay it at the cashier's office.
Okay, I'd better take care of it right away. Thanks for letting me know.
Number 1. What problem does the man have? Number 2. What will the man probably do next? Questions 3 through 4. Listen to a conversation between two students on a field trip.
Look, isn't that a house finch?
No, I think it's just a little brown sparrow.
It seems reddish to me, and its song is like a recording we heard of a house finch. Professor Flynn said we'd probably see a lot of red finches today.
Well, maybe you're right. We'd better write it down anyway. But I still say it's too brown to be a house finch. I'll put a question mark by it.
We've sure seen enough starlings. I didn't even know they lived in the city. I can remember hearing my cousin complain about how the starlings always ate all the fruit in their orchard.
They are kind of pretty, though, don't you think? Look at how the black is mixed with a little green, making their feathers look iridescent.
Number 3. What are the students discussing? Number 4. What can be inferred about starlings? Questions 5 through 7. Listen to a conversation between a student and the physics department secretary.
Hello, may I leave a message here for Dr. Owada?
Yes, I can give her a message, or if you've written her a note, you can put it in her mailbox over there.
I didn't write her a note, but I can. May I sit here and write it?
Sure. Oh, I just realized that Dr. Owada isn't on campus today because she had a conference to go to. She'll get the message tomorrow. Would that be all right?
I was going to tell her I wouldn't be in class today, but maybe I don't need to now. Is her 2 o'clock class canceled?
No, Professor Strong will be giving the lecture today.
Oh, it's too bad I'll miss that. He's a great speaker. Well, thank you for your help.
It's okay. Have a nice day.
Number 5. Why does the student want to leave a message for Dr. Owada? Number 6. What does the secretary imply about Dr. Owada? Number 7. What will the student probably do? Questions 8 through 10. Listen to a discussion in a history class.
Did anyone happen to catch the American metropolis last night? It was about the growth of cities.
I didn't see that, but I did see part of a documentary last week that told about a guy, I think he was a visitor from another country, who wrote a book about the growth of industry and so on, the things we've just studied. I remember he said there was a huge population explosion that turned America into a nation of cities all within a decade. He was talking mostly about Baltimore.
Baltimore then or now?
In the 19th century, right after the Civil War.
The program you saw was part of the same series as the one I want to tell you about. Last night the topic was New York City. As early as 1880, the federal government wrote a report on how the 5 separate municipalities of New York actually constituted one vast metropolitan area. It was a progressive way of thinking at the time, and within 20 years, those 5 municipalities were officially united as a single city by a vote of the people. To this day, however, each borough maintains traces of its original independence.
I agree with that. I'm from Brooklyn, and it's definitely different from the rest of New York.
Number 8. What are the people discussing? Number 9. What can be inferred about the United States in the 19th century? Number 10. What can be inferred about New York City? Exercise 2.4e. Questions 1 through 2. Listen to part of a talk in a science class.
As you recall from our previous discussion, the chemistry of life is organized into metabolic pathways. Next year in your organic chemistry lab, you'll go into metabolism, in more depth. Since this is an intro course, you need only a general understanding of the process for now. There's a wonderful videotape I'd like you to know about that will help you review for the test next week. It's part of the Transformations series that was on television about a year ago. The episode you should watch is called The Industry of a Cell. I strongly urge you to see it. I believe our library has more than one copy. It shows lots of examples, the many ways that cells use energy for metabolism. For example, it shows how bacteria in the headlight of a certain fish, how these bacteria take the energy stored in food and convert it into light in a process called bioluminescence. You should all try to see this program before next week. I highly recommend it. In fact, you can expect to see examples from it on the test.
Number 1. What can be inferred about the course in which the talk is given? Number 2. What does the professor imply about the videotape? Questions 3 through 6. Listen to an instructor give a talk about jazz.
The origins of jazz are as richly textured as the music itself. The term jazz really covers many different kinds of music. In the late 19th century, African Americans began performing the folk music known as the blues, whose origins lay in the work songs of slavery days. Within the African American community, the blues evolved into popular commercial music. In 1914, a black orchestra leader named W.C. Handy wrote the St. Louis Blues. Adapting the African American folk idiom to European conventions of orchestration and harmony, Handy produced a hit song. The St. Louis Blues was tremendously influential among black and white musicians, and Handy's style of music became famous under the name of jazz. Early jazz musicians were active in many cities and towns throughout the southern United States. It was New Orleans, with its long tradition of African American music, that was the home of many fathers of jazz. After World War I, the musicians of New Orleans joined the general northward migration of African Americans. The first great national center of jazz was Chicago. From there, the music entered the mainstream and even gave its name to the decade of the 1920s. Jazz, blending African American folk roots with elements of popular music and European classical traditions, has been called America's classical music.
Number 3. For which course would the talk be most appropriate? Number 4. What does the instructor imply about the style of music known as the blues? Number 5. According to the instructor, why is the song St. Louis Blues significant? Number 6. Based on the information in the talk, indicate whether each statement below accurately describes jazz. Questions 7 through 10. Listen to part of a lecture in a marine biology class.
Land animals move easily through air because air does not slow them down. Sea creatures, on the other hand, have to move through water, which is hundreds of times thicker than air. A sea animal has to push itself through water in order to move. Sea animals use many different ways to swim, creep, or glide through water. Fish are able to swim by bending their bodies into waves. They have flattened fins and tails that push against the water like oar blades, converting their body waves into forward movement. The size of a fish's tail contributes to its swimming speed. Small tail fins are found in slow swimmers like the eel. The medium-sized tail of the bass is linked with a medium to fast swimming speed. Long pointed tail lobes like those on the marlin are found only on fast swimmers. Sea mammals like whales and dolphins swim in a very fish-like way, except for one important difference. Because their ancestors lived on the land, they developed tails that moved up and down. Whales and dolphins wave their tails up and down rather than side to side like fish do. The seahorse is a fish whose tail is not used for swimming at all. The seahorse uses its thin, coiled tail to attach itself to seaweed, like a monkey's tail holds onto a tree branch. Squids and octopuses move in a completely different way. They use a type of jet propulsion, shooting water out through a nozzle to force themselves along. And then there are the creatures that live on the bottom of the sea. Sea slugs, limpets, and whelks creep on a single flat piece of muscle called a foot. Ripples pass along the foot, which allows these animals to glide smoothly forward.
Number 7. What is the main purpose of the lecture? Number 8. Select the drawing of the creature that is probably the fastest swimmer. Number 9. Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question.
Sea mammals like whales and dolphins swim in a very fish-like way, except for one important difference. Because their ancestors lived on the land, they developed tails that moved up and down. Whales and dolphins wave their tails up and down rather than side to side like fish do.
What is probably true about whales and dolphins? Number 10. What can be inferred about creatures that live on the bottom of the ocean? Quiz 4. Questions 1 through 5. Listen to a conversation in a university office.
Jackie, I wonder if I could talk to you about something.
Sure, what's on your mind?
There's an opening at Channel 12 that kind of interests me, an internship. I was kind of thinking of applying for it.
You mean the television station? What sort of job? Oh, I hope that doesn't mean you'll have to leave us.
No, I wouldn't quit my job. It's a part-time internship for production assistant. Production work, general stuff. Probably mostly I'd be a gopher.
I see.
Anyway, it'd be a way in the door. Unfortunately, it's not a paid internship, but that doesn't matter. It's the experience, the chance to work in television. That's more important to me right now. Someday I'd like to write or produce. I probably don't stand much of a chance, though. I'm sure there'll be lots of other people who apply with more qualifications than me.
Don't be so sure about that. You never know. Sometimes it's not the credentials, but the person who matters. My friend got a really good job in the mayor's office, public relations, a power position. And before that, the only work she'd done was emergency rescue, evacuating people in helicopters, flood victims, accidents, and the like. And then she goes and lands this glamour job in the mayor's office with no experience in politics whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can never tell.
Still, I'm going to need all the help I can get. If I could only convince them of how much I need them to know how much this would mean to me. I was wondering, Jackie, if you...
You want a recommendation?
Yeah, like I said, I need all the help I can get.
I'd be happy to do what I can. I feel I know your work pretty well. Here in the lab, you've always been good at troubleshooting and helping people figure out their email. I can emphasize that in the letter. When do you need this?
By the end of the week. The application is due next Tuesday.
All right, Alex. I hope this will work out for you.
If not this, then something else.
There you go. That's the spirit.
Number 1. What is the conversation mainly about? Number 2. Why does the man want to get the internship? Number 3. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
I probably don't stand much of a chance, though. I'm sure there'll be lots of other people who apply with more qualifications than me.
Select the sentence that best expresses how the man probably feels. Number 4. Why does the woman tell a story about her friend? Number 5. What does the man want the woman to do? Questions 6 through 10. A naturalist has been invited to speak to the members of a college hiking club. Listen to part of the discussion.
Because of their protected status, a lot of bears have lost their fear of people. This may make them appear tame, but they're still potentially very dangerous. Bears are wild animals. 1 or 2 bear attacks occur each year in Glacier Park. The majority of attacks occur because people have surprised the bear.
What should we do if we surprise a bear?
You should try to avoid encounters in the first place by being alert and make noise, talk loud, holler. Bears will usually move out of the way if they hear people approaching.
Some people say to carry bells or put bells on your pack.
Most bells, even the so-called bear bells, are not loud enough. Calling out or clapping hands at regular intervals are better ways to make your presence known.
But isn't it kind of rude to make a lot of noise in the woods? I mean, people go there for peace and quiet.
In bear country, noise is good for you. Hiking quietly endangers you, the bear, and other hikers. People sometimes assume they don't have to make noise while hiking on a well-used trail. Some of the most frequently used trails in Glacier Park are surrounded by excellent bear habitat. You can't predict when and where bears might appear along a trail.
That's for sure. I remember my surprise when a black bear charged me. It must have been running away from hikers who surprised it on the trail ahead of me.
Don't assume a bear's hearing is any better than your own. Some trail conditions make it hard for bears to see, hear, or smell approaching hikers. You should be especially careful near streams, against the wind, or in dense vegetation. Stay with your group and, if possible, avoid hiking early in the morning, late in the day, or after dark, when bears are more likely to be active. Bears spend a lot of time eating, so avoid hiking in areas like berry patches or fields of glacier lilies.
How will the bear act if we surprise it?
Bears react differently to each situation. They may appear to tolerate you and then attack without warning. The most important advice I can give you is never to approach a bear intentionally. Each bear will react differently, and its behavior can't be predicted. All bears are dangerous and should be respected equally.
Number 6. What is the discussion mainly about? Number 7. What does the naturalist think of bear bells? Number 8. Listen again to part of the discussion. Then answer the question.
Don't assume a bear's hearing is any better than your own. Some trail conditions make it hard for bears to see, hear, or smell approaching hikers. You should be especially careful near streams, against the wind, or in dense vegetation.
Why does the naturalist say this?
You should be especially careful near streams, against the wind, or in dense vegetation.
Number 9. What can be inferred about the behavior of bears? Number 10. Which situations should hikers avoid? Quiz 5. Questions 1 through 5. Listen to a professor lead a discussion in a biology class.
In our last meeting, we discussed how science is a process. Science involves the formation of a hypothesis and the testing of that hypothesis through observation and experimentation. We use this process to answer our questions about nature. Today, we'll focus on science and technology. Technology, especially in the form of new instruments, can extend our ability to observe. Technology enables us to work on questions that were previously unapproachable. In turn, technology often applies the discoveries of science. Can anyone think of an example? Yes, Rosa?
The inventors of the electron microscope used electromagnetic theory from physics.
The electron microscope is an excellent example of applied science. But not all technology can be described as applied science. In fact, technology came before science in our prehistory. Technology was driven by inventive humans who built tools, made pottery, designed musical instruments, and so on, all without science. That is, without people necessarily understanding why their inventions worked.
Technology might not be science, but I think technology mostly helps us. It enables us to cure diseases so people can live longer.
But look at the environmental consequences, like global warming and holes in the ozone.
Not to mention nuclear accidents, toxic waste, extinction of species. Technology can't save us from ourselves.
You're all raising some very important issues. Technology has improved our standard of living in many ways, but technology is a double-edged sword. Science and technology are partners. Science can help us identify problems and provide insight about what course of action may prevent further damage. But solutions to these problems have as much to do with politics, economics, and culture as with science and technology.
I think scientists have a responsibility to educate politicians and the public about the consequences of certain technologies. This is why I'm a science major now, but I've decided to get a master's degree in public policy.
And a decision like that is important. Scientists should try to influence how technology applies the discoveries of science.
Number 1. What is the discussion mainly about? Number 2. What does the electron microscope provide an example of? Number 3. Why does the professor mention tools, pottery, and musical instruments? Number 4. Listen again to part of the discussion. Then answer the question.
You're all raising some very important issues. Technology has improved our standard of living in many ways, but technology is a double-edged sword.
What does the professor mean by this statement?
Technology is a double-edged sword.
Number 5. Why does one of the students plan to get a master's degree in public policy? Questions 6 through 10. A forester has been invited to speak to a group of students. Listen to part of the talk.
No matter whether we live in the country, the suburbs, or the city, we come in contact with forests every day. A combination of trees, other plants, insects, wildlife, soil, water, air, and people is a forest. I'm a professional forester. That means I've been trained in the management of forests. Managing a forest is both a science and an art, which is why my education included courses in the biological, physical, and social sciences, as well as the humanities.
Doesn't being a forester mean you always work in the woods?
Foresters, of course, do work in the woods. More and more, however, they also work in laboratories, classrooms, planning agencies, corporate offices, and so forth. In fact, our professional organization, the Society of American Foresters, lists over 700 job categories.
I've always been confused about the difference between a national park and a national forest. In a lot of ways, they're similar. For example, we can camp and hike in both.
There is a difference between them. National parks, such as Yellowstone, are set aside and preserved in a near-natural state, mainly for the recreational enjoyment of the public. Our parks are administered by the Department of the Interior. National forests, on the other hand, are administered by the Department of Agriculture. Our forests are managed for their many benefits, including recreation, wood products, wildlife, and water.
That means there's a difference between a forester and a park ranger, right?
Yes, there are differences. A forester manages an area of forest for forest products, water quality, wildlife, recreation, and so on. A park ranger, on the other hand, manages an area in a national or state park, mainly for recreation. Another difference is who owns the land. A forester can work on federal, state, or private land, while a park ranger is almost always a government employee.
My major is biology, but I'd like to work in the woods, in the area of wildlife preservation. Would that make me a forester or a biologist?
Some foresters are primarily biologists, but most foresters majored in forestry management. Foresters and wildlife biologists often work together as a team. Both foresters and biologists want to see that various types of habitat flourish. Deer, for example, require a different habitat than wolves, yet the forest can accommodate them both.
Number 6. What is the talk mainly about? Number 7. What can be inferred about the profession of forestry? Number 8. Why does the student say this?
I've always been confused about the difference between a national park and a national forest. In a lot of ways, they're similar. For example, we can camp and hike in both.
Number 9. Listen again to part of the talk. Then answer the question.
National parks, such as Yellowstone, are set aside and preserved in a near-natural state, mainly for the recreational enjoyment of the public. Our parks are administered by the Department of the Interior. National forests, on the other hand, are administered by the Department of Agriculture. Our forests are managed for their many benefits, including recreation, wood products, wildlife, and water.
What can be inferred about national parks? Number 10. Listen again to part of the talk. Then answer the question.
My major is biology, but I'd like to work in the woods, in the area of wildlife preservation. Would that make me a forester or a biologist?
Some foresters are primarily biologists, but most foresters majored in forestry management. Foresters and wildlife biologists often work together as a team. Both foresters and biologists want to see that various types of habitat flourish.
Why does the forester say this?
Both foresters and biologists want to see that various types of habitat flourish.